Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
How will Boris Johnson's pledge to take Britain out of the EU by October the 31st, come hell or high water, go down in Scotland, where the majority backed Remain? It might not bode well for the Scottish Conservative Party's efforts to make major inroads against the SNP. In fact, their Westminster leader described Mr Johnson today as the last Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Fatima Manji reports from Motherwell on how Mr Johnson is being received so far.
For the longest time, Motherwell was considered the epitome of a Labour heartland. It is still strongly working class, but nowadays a town with an SNP MP, and 51% of people here voted for independence. Deeply embedded political allegiances have been broken. Yet the destruction of the steel industry under Thatcher,
when the 1,200-strong workforce were told their jobs were to disappear,
remains a painful memory here, and to be a Tory still seemed toxic. But some believe that was slowly changing. In 2017, the Conservatives went from 0 councillors to 10, led locally by 27-year-old Megan Gallagher.
Motherwell is my hometown. I've grew up here all my life. For me, I will always be a Scottish Conservative and Unionist, and I do believe if you are a Conservative, no matter what part of the country, you should fight tooth and nail for that union.
How would you feel about bringing the new Prime Minister down here and walking around your ward, as it were?
Sure. I think it'd be an experience, but that's something that people do like about Boris Johnson, is the fact that he never backs down to a challenge.
But you think it would be a challenge?
I think it would be a challenge because I don't believe that, people... He's a bit of a Marmite character, isn't he? And I think he's got a lot to prove. I do understand that, the people of Scotland, they might be a little bit, they might have a few concerns about Boris Johnson, but we need to wait and see what we do. I believe in giving people a chance, and I think we've got to give Boris the chance to, prove to the people of Scotland that his heart is here.
That certainly hasn't been proved yet, and it's not difficult to find detractors.
What do you think of Boris Johnson?
No comment.
Why?
We've just got two crazy men with crazy haircuts running America and here. I feel quite sad. He should think before he speaks, and that's what worries me. He doesn't. Hopefully he can do some good. I pray to God.
I think he could be a bit of a dangerous man. That's bit careless with words.
Dangerous? What do you mean by dangerous?
Some of the things he comes out with. He comes across a bit anti-Scottish at times, which I don't think can be a good thing. When we're trying to remain part of Britain, I think we need to have the Westminster government look to include us, not to exclude us. I think that could be bad.
A recent poll by Panel Base showed the prospect of Prime Minister Boris Johnson could increase support for Scottish independence.
This is my great-grandson.
Hello.
That prospect is now reality. So will his premiership intensify nationalism?
I think it might push for Scotland independence, and I think we might get it this time.
Have you had lots of people saying that?
Yeah.
Well, a few of my friends are worried in that, but, well, not worried, but just, I think they would rather see independence come now.
Because of Boris Johnson?
And Brexit as well.
He's young and all that, and the way they think it's a sort of Scottish thing or Scotland and whatever, but they don't know the big implications of everything.
So you've got a generational divide here?
Yeah,
We've been keeping up to date with, aye.
2017's general election saw a surge in support for Scottish Tories, with a campaign focused on persuading those against independence to back them, even if they didn't traditionally.
After 6.5 weeks on the trail.
The fear for Ruth Davidson and the Scottish Conservatives is their efforts to detoxify the Tory brand are now being undone. Andy McIver worked on strategy for the party for many years.
Boris Johnson is exactly what the SNP wants a Tory to be. He is rich, he's southern, he's posh, he's a Leave voter, and he has a streak of English nationalism about him. That is everything that Nicola Sturgeon would want a Tory to be. And so conversely, it's everything that Ruth Davidson doesn't want a Tory to be, and it's everything that Ruth Davidson herself is not. That is the problem.
The solution he backs? Splitting off the Scottish Tories entirely. First suggested back in 2011, it was dismissed by Ruth Davidson then and subsequently. But it is quietly winning support.
Are you saying that even if Scottish Tory MPs and MSPs are publicly holding the line, privately they're having conversations about splitting away.
There is no question there is a conversation going on. It's been going on for quite some time, and it's been intensified since it became clear that Boris was going to win this leadership contest. And the conversation is about how do we manage to keep ourselves alive.
In fact, Channel 4 News has learned at least 8 Conservative MSPs are now strongly considering it. Scottish Tories have shifted the political landscape before. With this new Prime Minister, they may need to reinvent themselves again.
With me now is David Duckett, the Conservative MP for Banff and Buchan. Now, you supported Mr Gove during the competition for leadership. What do you think of Boris's first day?
I was very impressed with his performance today, particularly in the chamber when he made his statement.
You want a job, don't you?
I'm quite happy with the job I have, to be honest, which the people of Banff and Buchan gave me.
Just to be an MP?
Just to be an MP right now, yeah, fine with that.
How, I mean, if you look across Scotland, which after all was pretty strongly Remain, how do you think that whole constituency of the country is going to be affected?
Well, in 2016, of course, it's true that 62% of people who voted in that referendum in 2016 voted for the United Kingdom to remain in the EU. But in 2017, in the general election, 56% of the voters voted for parties, the main two parties, Conservative and Labour, who at the time at least were committed to leave the EU. And as time goes on, we're now 3 years on from the referendum result, more and more people, and I was talking to farmers at the weekend who were saying this very thing, is we've been waiting now to leave for 3 years. We just want the certainty. We just want it to get on with it.
Well, let me throw you another statistic at you. 65% of Scots in a poll recently said they feel Boris Johnson would be a poor or even terrible Prime Minister.
Well, I don't know. I wasn't told. I don't agree with that.
There is what they call a Boris factor north of the border. They don't like him.
I think there is a tendency for certainly the SNP and other opposition parties to characterise Boris as this caricature of everything that Scottish people don't like. But as I've got to know Boris more, I've discovered that he is actually that whole optimism and energy and purpose that he exudes is genuine. It's 100% genuine.
But I mean, what do you think of the debate over whether Scottish Conservatives should actually break away from the UK party?
Well, technically we're a separate party, but I don't think we need to be completely separate.
Well, what is separate or completely separate?
Well, we certainly shouldn't be emphasising the need to be separate, because that would fall right into the SNP hands of Scotland being
but,
somehow
I mean, if you take
separate
someone like
from the rest of the United Kingdom.
who leads the party in Scotland, I mean, to what extent would she represent a rather different party to the one in Britain?
Well, we're not that different, of course, because we are Conservative and Unionist.
But you are different over
I mean, you've got Scottish Liberal Democrats, you've got Scottish Labour, you've got Scottish Conservative and Unionist. That's
I'm really meaning on the Brexit issue, though.
Yeah. Well, as Ruth Davidson herself said, I mean, we have to deliver on Brexit because that was the will of the British people in the United Kingdom that we are committed to remaining within. And as Ruth Davidson famously said, when it comes to fishing, which is a very important factor in my constituency, we're all Brexiteers.
Now, when do you think the really exciting moment will come when Boris Johnson actually visits Scotland? Is it something you hunger for?
Absolutely. I think part of the problem is Boris, like many English MPs, to the Scottish voter seems like something that's remote and far away. The more exposure that people like Boris and other of his colleagues can have in Scotland, I think they'll get to know him and trust him the same way I do.
Well, I can see where your loyalties lie, but a no-deal Brexit, surely even you would admit, would be deeply damaging to the Union.
Nobody wants a no-deal Brexit. Prime Minister Boris Johnson, least of all. As he said,
he's the one who's raised it.
Well, at least but we have to prepare for a no-deal Brexit in case that happens.
Yeah,
because
but the rhetoric before the leadership thing was, you know, he wanted it.
Well, the Theresa May herself said no deal is better than a bad deal.
Thank you very, very much for joining us. Thanks.
Thank you.